The purpose of Freethought Forum is to be vigilant to the encroachment of religion into government and to educate the general public as to what a freethinker is.
My thoughts give me power.
No scholar can map them.
No hunter can trap them. No person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei. No person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei.
I think as I please, and this
Hello,
gives
my name
me-
is Hugh Henry. This is Freethought Forum. And our topic today is, I'm not here, you're not here either? Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night. That's what Betty Davis says near the climax of All About Eve. In all the strange positions I have taken, I promise this will be the strangest. I've been working up to it on this program all year. I promise to get back to more normal presentations, at least for a while. I'm not here, you're not here, meant in much the same sense as the book I'm okay, you're okay. So, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them. Here goes. I'm going to start with some methodological logic. I will introduce you to Phaedra's knife from Robert Pirsig as an introduction to nailing Descartes and as I think, therefore I am. Pay attention here. My whole argument stands or falls on this. I'm going to take a sharp turn to discovery and human development, and from there, watch carefully, at no point do my hands leave my wrists, arrive at God herself, or himself. Then to addictions, and at how religions attempt to destroy I to get to mystical union, and smack into Buddhism. Then back to the development through life, question the continuity of this self, how it is interrupted by disease or even sleep, whether memories make a self, self is an illusion, what the implications are if I am not really here, how to live with it. During all this, I will refer to I, the self, the ghost in the machine. I said it was going to be a bumpy ride. Method, sort of. Aristarchus of Samos, 300 to 230 BC, Greek astronomer, offered three proofs that the earth was round. Shape of the shadow on the moon during an eclipse, how the stars visible in the sky differ by the location of the observer, how ships disappear over the horizon. We'll start a similar approach. Physical statistical. Statistical sampling arguments at the micro and macro levels. It's a trick, really. Matter in the universe. We'll go out and take samples of parts of the universe. What do we find? Vacuum. Well, let's take 100,000 samples. Vacuum. 1,000,000 samples. Vacuum. So what's all this? It's all vacuum. There's nothing here. Stars in the sky. Let's take a photometer that measures light and sweep across the sky with a telescope. We'll get mostly blackness. Oh, a few little glitches, it might be instrument errors. Let's look at the human body and what it's made of. Water. Lots of water. Almost all water. Hardly anything but water. So this is a bag of water. Is there a self here? Nah, I don't think so. How about space in the atom? You know, what's this matter stuff? So we go down at this subatomic level and we look and we sample again. What do we find? Nothing. We take 100,000 samples. What do we find? Nothing. Nothing but space. So there's nothing here at all. Ologies. Let's look at examples of models not using I. Geology. There's no I in geology. No, I know not in the spelling. If you study geology, where's the person? Except for the guy writing the book. Where's the I? Geophysics. No. Astronomy? No. Physics? Only sometimes as an arbitrary observer. Only a viewpoint. Let's talk about Robert Pirsig and his great book, Zen, the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Phaedra is a pseudonym given by the narrator to a college professor who went quite insane, came out of a long institutional stay, cured as the narrator. We will speak of Phaedra's knife. There is a knife moving here, a very deadly one, an intellectual scalpel so swift and so sharp you sometimes don't see it moving. You get the illusion that all those parts are just there and are being named as they exist, but they can be named quite differently and organized quite differently, depending on how the knife moves. For example, the feedback mechanism, which includes the camshaft, cam chain, tappets, and distributor, exist only because of an unusual cut of this analytic knife. If you were to go to a motorcycle parts department and ask them for the feedback assembly, they wouldn't know what the hell you were talking about. They don't split it up that way. No two manufacturers ever split it up quite the same way, and every mechanic is familiar with the problem of the part you can't buy because you can't find it because the manufacturer considers it part of something else. It is important to see this knife for what it is and not be fooled into thinking that motorcycles or anything else are the way they are just because the knife happened to cut it up that way. It is important to concentrate on the knife itself. Later I will want to show you how the ability to use this knife creatively and effectively can result in solutions to the classic and romantic split. Phaedrus was a master with this knife. He used it with dexterity and a sense of power. With a single stroke of analytic thought, he split the whole world into parts of his own choosing, split the parts, split the fragments of the parts, finer and finer and finer, until he had reduced it to what he wanted. Even the special use of the terms classic and romantic are examples of his knifemanship. If this were all there were to him, analytic skill, I'd be more than willing to shut up about him. What makes it important not to shut up about him is the way he used this skill in such a bizarre and yet meaningful way. No one ever saw this. I don't think even he saw it himself. It may be an illusion of my own making. But the knife he used was less than an assassin than that of a poor surgeon. Perhaps there is no difference. But he saw a sick and alien thing happening, and he started cutting deeper and deeper and deeper to get to the root of it. He was after something. That is important. He was after something, and he used the knife because it was the only tool he had. But he took on so much and went so far, in the end, his real victim was himself. When Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," he cluttered the landscape. Specifically, he is arbitrarily dividing the universe into I and not I. This is the center of my argument here. He has no right to do that. No logical basis. He has no justification to make that cut with Phaedra's knife. But then, Phaedra's knife is always arbitrary. He is making an assumption, using a convenience, creating a classification, making a convention, and he never sees it. Never sees it coming. Surprisingly enough, the Swiss genius child psychologist Jean Piaget showed that this was also one of the earliest developments in the life of a child. That is to say, to a very young baby, when he is happy, the universe is happy. When he is hungry or in pain, the universe is hungry or in pain. Then he discovers that there is a place where he ends and the rest of the universe begins. He discovers the other. And this is, I am here, you are here. And it is an arbitrary convention, a convenience, which forms parts of many, but not all models of reality. So at that tender age, once you find yourself, the rest of life is spent resolving questions about self and other. For one thing, the first other is Mom. You are helpless, hungry, and dependent on Mom and other others. Better keep good diplomatic relations. or scream till they come. So you worry all about your life about those others. Then there are the questions from I. Who am I? Where did I come from? What am I here for? What am I supposed to do? Finally, you vaguely remember a time when there was no other, when you were the universe, back when you were inside Mom's womb. You remember some of that. And wouldn't it be nice to get back there again, to lose yourself and to be one with the universe? Perhaps we all came from somebody else's womb. Or perhaps we are inside that womb of somebody else right now. Wow, that would explain a lot. She's got the whole world in her womb. Oh, but it's not supposed to be her. It's supposed to be him. He's got the whole world in his hands. Better keep on good diplomatic relations with him. Or you can end the problem. Forget the other. Return to the womb. You can surrender. You can lose yourself. You do it all the time. In your work, in running, hiking, climbing, in sex, in peak experiences, in a bottle. You become one with what you are doing and may become one with the universe in some sense. If you become one with the wrong thing, there are 12-step programs to help you get out of addictions. Addictions that all involve losing yourself. All involving surrender. And if you want to actually be one with the real universe, there are the original 12-step programs of all mystical religions. Christianity, Sufism, Buddhism. All these 12-step programs emphasize humility, piety, belief in the other, love, obedience. Now, I must emphasize that these are techniques, tried and true techniques. They work if applied. Humility, piety, belief in the other, love of the great other, obedience are technical requirements, all moving away from I, all attempting to end the first split, to surrender the primacy of I. They are technical requirements of the mystical experience, which is a real altered state in which there is direct experience of mystical union, of oneness with the universe. However, if you believe in life, liberty, and the rights of individual, and aren't into humility and piety and obedience, you simply can't get there. Any more than you can expect to take an LSD trip without taking any LSD. It's a technical requirement. Although some suspect political motives of power and domination, and in many cases these rules have been used to do just that, it still remains. If you really want to get there, you have to take a path. Let's look at a very good one. Buddhism emphasizes the illusory nature of life and attempts to overcome the illusion. Most of the problem is the illusion of the nature of self, the belief in self, the belief in the importance of self and what self feels and experiences. All illusion. The Four Noble Truths taught by Buddha. Existence is suffering. The cause of suffering is desire. There is a cessation of suffering called nirvana, or total transcendence. There is a path leading to the end of suffering, the Eightfold Noble Path, their 12-step program. There is no self. And there certainly, according to Buddhists, is no eternal self, no eternal soul. That is the height of ego attachment, the maximum I. My name is Hugh Henry. This is Freethought Forum, and our topic is, I'm not here, you're not here either. Well, let's take a look at this person thingy. What do you consider to be a person? Well, in Roman times, the baby was taken before the head of the family. And if the head of the family named the baby, it was a person. If he gave it back, it was a thing. It could be tossed in the trash. It could be given to the temple as a sacrifice. It could be left on a hillside to die. It wasn't a person. From those times until fairly recently, there's a very high mortality rate among the youngest of children. Someone could have 20 babies and only see 7 of them grow up. In the film, The Yearling, the mother has had a baby that died before the first year, and she felt deeply attached to it. So when she has her second child, she withholds her attachment, withholds her love, until she sees that it will survive. And now she indulges the child because she feels guilty about what she has done. The Right to Life people seem to think that you become a person when you're conceived. And Chinese astrology would go along with that too. Their calendars on who's going to be where, it starts when you're conceived, not when you're born. And what happens to I after you're born? You continue to develop right through life. Whole sections of personality and insight coming online at 2, 8, 14, 25. And then you hit the midlife crisis, and you're already losing parts of your brain, parts of your personality. There are some things that cannot be understood or learned until you are 60 or 70 or 80. Would I even like the kid I was when I was 8 if I met him? Would I listen to me at 57 if I were 25? I might. I might discard most of it, I'm sure. What about what disease can do to this person thing? My grandfather had Parkinson's disease, a disease of many strokes. I only knew him well after this process started. I was told that he used to have a terrible temper, no patience and quick to anger. That wasn't at all my grandfather. His personality had changed completely. Damage the machine, change the self? Does that sound like something separate? Something enduring? But that's the brain. That's brain damage. The real person doesn't change. He's in there somewhere. He remains constant. Okay? Show me the proof. That's a faith, a belief. And it comes from Platonic Greek philosophy at that. That's the origin of separate eternal soul in Western thought, not Judeo-Christian belief, not the Bible. The machine creates the ghost to deal with the world and especially society. If it doesn't work, we fix it. Even replace it with a new person. That's what happens in anorexia and sometimes in addiction. I remember seeing a television show where they brought this look-like to be a little girl on a stretcher. And very gently, so they have to lean over, she's saying, "I'm not to be saved. I'm not to be saved. I'm not a good person." She was not a little girl, she was a 20-year-old anorexic. And the question is, would she die of it? Either way, she's going to die. Physical death or the death of this person that is not to be saved. Well, she lives physically, but the person they brought in, the person who was not a good person, the person who was not to be saved, that person is dead. The concept of dying and being reborn while still living is real, even if we see it many times as Christian. We replace one eye with another. Then there's the change seen with near-death experience, but we don't even have to go that far. At night, when we sleep, eye is turned right off. The body, the machine, doesn't need it. May even need a break from eye's relentless demands. And dreams? Well, perhaps they are self-maintenance. Put the self up on the rack, do a person oil change and a person tire rotation. Is it even the same I, the same self in the morning? We have been talking about issues of self-continuity through life. The Buddhists have a concept of a stub candle lighting a new candle. Is it the same fire? It's a different candle. A Bic lighter flicks and lights a cigarette of a driver. Burned down, he flicks it out the open window into some dry brush. The brush flames, and several days later, and miles away, there is a raging forest fire. Is it the same fire as the little one in the brush? As the ember in the cigarette? As the brief flame of the lighter? We don't even have that much continuity. We put out the fire at night and sleep and relight our fireplace in the morning. Memories? They're ashes in the fireplace. What about memory? Notoriously changeable. Are we the sum total of our memories? My computer has memory, lots of it, and for the same purpose. Does my computer have a self? An I? Is there a ghost in my machine? There is work in universities and laboratories going on right now to give computers a personality and, again for the same purpose, to interact with the world and especially social interaction with people. It is, of course, designed as an illusion, meant to fool. Is that an I? Will this be a ghost in a machine? The self is an illusion? If the I, the self, the person, eludes us because it is an illusion, it would be best investigated by a professional illusionist. A task for the great Randy, perhaps. He could explain how the trick was done. Long ago, we ascribed personhood to everything. Sun was a person. The sky was a person. The ocean was a person. They call the wind Mariah. It was a model of the world we used to use. Over time, as mystery was solved, we discarded them as illusions. Now we're down to two. One great person who created everything and I, the self, frequently attributed only to one species, man. Many of us have discarded the big self, God. Do we have proof of this last personhood? Well, there certainly is something here. I experience it. But I also experience the sun, the sky, and the wind. Now there's a history of unknowable mysteries, a history of illusion. We will never know the mystery of life, what makes one thing living and another non-living. There is a great chasm between man and even the higher animals. The difference between man and animal is... The Buddhist Zen koan, or riddle, says, does a dog have a Buddha nature? Correct answer is no, as an exclamation. How do they know? How do they know? There will never be a machine that can really think. The difference between man and machine is... All these mysteries have either washed away or are in the process of eroding, maintained only by man's stubborn ego. At a funeral, we talk about burying only a husk. Is there only a husk? And the I, the person, was only a byproduct of that husk, a construct to be shut down every night, taken off and hung up like a shirt? So to deny even the real, separate, and important existence of self would lead to nihilist, immoral world. I should just go out and shoot myself. Where have we heard that before? Where indeed? When we discarded and denied the existence of the big self, God. Well, I'm still here. Haven't murdered or raped anybody recently. But how many have been killed or raped for ego, for self? King Louis XIV ruined France for his own pleasure and said, "Après moi le déluge," after me the flood. He didn't give a damn. Americans consume a huge portion of the world's resources, water, energy, ruining large areas in order to satisfy self, to satisfy I, in a chase after happiness of the self, to satisfy an illusion, and it doesn't work. If self-ego is an illusion, a construct, it's not justified to hurt anything in order to satisfy it. So how are we to deal with, it's time to discard the reality of this last personhood, the person itself. We just did that with God for a lack of proof. That would be gutsy. So should we all become Buddhists and deny the illusion? You can be a Buddhist and still be an atheist. It's easy. And a recent study has verified that, on average, Buddhist monks are very happy people, much happier than the rest of us, even knowing as they do that they're living in an illusion. So in the end, what are we to do? How are we to live? I must, as I have done before, refer to the words of Paul Simon in the song, "Flowers Never Bend with the Rainfall." The mirror on my wall casts an image dark and small, and I'm not sure at all what's my reflection. I'm blinded by the light of God and truth and right, and I wander in the night without direction. No matter if you're born to play the king or pawn, for the line is thinly drawn to joy and sorrow. And so my fantasy becomes reality, and I must be what I must be and face tomorrow. So I'll continue to pretend. My life will never end, and flowers never bend in the rainfall. I is a convenience, a convention, a useful element of some models. It is real only when you make it real. Who am I? Some arbitrary piece of the universe. Where did I come from? You made yourself. You can unmake I if you work at it. What am I here for? You made it. You call it. How can I get back? Lose yourself. But be careful. When I goes away, big you takes its place. Big you, the set of all sets, life, the universe, everything. Perhaps nirvana, grace, God. Sue, I'm not really here. Neither are you. I'm not here, you're not here is a concept, a frame of reference. New and original frames of reference are rare. Collect them all. Trade them with your friends. Hey, it may not make you rich or get you out of a traffic ticket, but who knows? This is Hugh Henry, or at least I think so, for Freethought Forum. This has been, I'm not here, you're not here either. If there's anybody still there, thank you for tuning in.
I think as I please, and this gives me pleasure.
My conscience decrees, this right I must treasure.
My thoughts will not cater
To duke or dictator, no person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei, no person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei. And should tyrants take me and throw me in prison, my thoughts will burst free like blossoms in season.